Hello tankers and tankettes. Going to do a kind of mini review thing today. I mentioned in one of my previous videos I would do a video explaining some of the differences between the two Soviet heavy lines because it's one of the frequently encountered questions, at least in the stream chat, I'm sure on the forums as well. What tank do I go for after I've got the KV-1? And it can be confusing if you're fairly new to the game. You've just bought the KV-1. You've just deleted the KV-1 possibly. Well, I say deleted. You've researched all the modules. I know what I mean. And you don't quite know what to go for next. And it's all these tanks. It can be confusing. So I'm gonna just do a quick run through of both lines basically. Not really looking at individual tanks that much, but looking at the kind of shared characteristics, because that's one thing Wargaming does try and do on tank lines, to some extent, as much as they can, is they try and give them some common traits, some kind of flavour. So you've got your KV-1 and you've hopefully enjoyed it because it's a good tank, and you're looking at the tech tree and you're thinking, what do I go for next? Now you've got three choices. You've got two tank lines which go all the way to tier 10, but you've also got this funny little thing sticking out the side here, the KV-2, and I'll have a quick look at that because it's kind of unique. This used to be part of these modules, this setup. You used to be able to get all this at tier 5. The tank was originally called the KV, and what Wargaming did was they split it and put these modules on a whole new tank at tier 6, and the hull it's the same basically. It's the same hull. It's just the turret and gun selection are a bit different. I think even the engine and everything is the same. This thing is in terms of going on to further tanks, yes, it goes on to a high tier artillery, what is now a tier 7 artillery, but it is otherwise a dead end. It's kind of a novelty. You can do well in it, you can have a lot of fun in it, but it doesn't lead to anything in particular. So if you were looking at getting your first tier 6 Soviet heavy, I would not get this thing. Save it for later. It's what I did basically. I don't. It's a bit of a keeper in my garage because it's fun, but I definitely, if I'd gotten it as my first tier 6 Soviet, that would have been a mistake. And I don't have any others to show you in my garage, but I can talk about them a little bit. The tier 6s are probably I won't say the most different between the lines. Most different in terms of armament. T150 gets a 107mm gun, and it's quite a nice gun for tier 6, but it's a bit overshadowed by the fact that the KV-1S gets a 122mm gun, and if you play tier 6 onwards, this is going to become a familiar weapon to you because a lot of the tanks have basically this gun, all the way up to, in fact, tier 10. The IS-4 has not this exact gun, but a very similar gun as its stock weapon. As you can imagine, that's not a good choice at tier 10. But anyway, at tier 6, it's bordering on overpowered, but it's got some letdowns, like the fact that it's got a very long reload, it's got a not great accuracy, and it's not got a good aim time either. The thing on the KV-1S is it's pretty much the only viable choice. IS gets, well, it's pretty similar, but you also get a 100mm gun. It's less alpha, but it's better otherwise. It's the same or better in other stats. So from tier 7 on this line, basically you get a good choice. This is the best of the 122mm, the BL9. Well, then you get onto, well, actually, that's best. This thing's the best, rather. The M62 T2. Wow, this is confidence inspiring. I'm sure you guys are all really, confident I know what I'm talking about now. yeah, and then you get up to IS7. Now I have to say the differences are more pronounced up to tier 9. The tier 10s, I don't. You see, I don't have either of them myself, but I don't feel they are that different. T150 armament wise, like I said, 107mm, and then you'll notice tier 7. This is basically the same guns that IS gets. KV4's got a unique 107mm top gun, but you can see here, very similar guns. That's exactly the same top gun as the IS-8. IS-4, like I said, it gets that as a stock thing, but then again, that's the same top gun you had on the STI. So the armament is not that different, and you can't really make a decision based on the armament, because yes, the tier 6s are different and the tier 8s are different, but otherwise the rest of the line, it's not that dissimilar at all. And they're all Soviet guns, so they all have the same kind of characteristics of not great aim times, not great accuracy, but usually fairly decent, if not pretty good, alpha damage. The main difference between them is it's down to mobility and armor, basically. The KV-1S and the T-150, the starters they mean to go on. KV-1S has got similar-ish armor. If we just compare, it's actually got the same frontal armor and worse armor otherwise than the KV-1, and it's this pattern continues the whole way along, pretty much until tier 10, and then obviously things are a bit more even between the two lines. These ones have more armor. These ones have more mobility. And that really dictates the play style between them. The KV-1S line up to the IS-8, they're kind of a mixture of brawlers and I mean the IS-8 in particular plays like a heavy medium. You can't really sit and take shots from other heavies. I think the IS-3 is kind of an exception. You can, like I said, it's the most brawly of the line. And the IS to some extent, but in terms of standing your ground and taking damage and angling and side scraping and all that good stuff, this line is that's what this line excels at, particularly the tier 8 and the tier 9. But even these two have got pretty good armor for their tier. They continue that tradition from the KV-1 of having strong turrets. The KV-3 is very, very good at bouncing shots off its turret front. KV-4 is pretty good at that. It's got a few more weak spots on its turret, but it's got the best raw armor value at tier 8. Sort of all-round armor value. Obviously, the Americans have got exceptional turrets. The STI's probably got one of the strongest turrets in the game, even including the Americans. And I can't really speak as the tier 10s because obviously I haven't played them. But so yeah, basically that's the main differences. If you feel like you really liked the KV-1 and you didn't mind that it wasn't that mobile, and you liked being able to take shots from your own tier and shrug them off, if you liked that characteristic, I would go down this line. But if you want more mobility along with your firepower, even though it makes you more fragile, then I would say go with the KV-1S line. And like I said, though there is a kind of a flavour to both lines, bear in mind that the individual tanks are different along the way. You will find, I don't know, something that will suit your playstyle in there somewhere. So yeah, I hope I've helped you come to some sort of decision, or along with other sources that I've given you a bit more information about the differences between these two. And yeah, I probably will do a few more of these for other tank trees, but bear in mind I will only be doing it really for ones that I've played to some extent, or that I've played against, so I have some idea of their characteristics. So say in the comments section if you think this has been a good idea, or if if you would like me to go more in depth with this sort of thing, or just any feedback is always appreciated. And of course you can like or subscribe this video if you're feeling particularly generous, and of course, as always, stay tuned for more.